Hello, I'm James Toy, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for KCRAR. You're about to watch one of our candidate interviews, an unfiltered, front row look at how those seeking office approach the issues that shape private property rights and the real estate industry as a whole. We share these conversations publicly so you can hear directly from the candidates, understand their positions in their words, and cast your vote with confidence.
Good morning again. I know we've corresponded a little bit via email, but James
Right.
Toy, I'm the SVP of Government Affairs for the Kansas City Regional Association of Realtors, and I'm joined by my colleague, Mr. Jeff Carson. Jeff, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning. Yes, my name is Jeff Carson. I am the Director of Realtor Advocacy and Commercial Services here at KCRAR. I'm also a practicing realtor, so um, you know, I'm coming at it from a little bit of a different angle. So
Big
thank you for
long
being with
title.
us this morning.
And Jeff also didn't mention he is the chairman of P&Z for the Unified Government in Wyandotte
Yes,
County.
Nice. You have a lot of stuff going on.
I do. Yeah, they can be fun meetings at times.
I bet. You haven't drawn any blood yet, right?
Not yet, but
Not yet.
I feel like with the Chief Stadium coming and data centers that probably there's some to get.
It's pretty volatile out there.
It is. It is.
Well, certainly a lot of big things on the horizon, but Mr. McDonald, we'd love to hear a little bit more about you and why you're
You
seeking
can you
office
can
in
call me Lon.
Lawn. Well,
All
we'd
right.
love to
Thank
hear a
you.
little bit more about you and why you're seeking office in Jackson County.
Well, I mean the reality of it is most of the stuff that you had on your questionnaire all comes back to how are people dealing with the property and the property tax and I ran in my industry, which is cleaning and restoration, for 25 years. I was a volunteer at the executive levels and started a couple of nonprofits and I've been involved in running things for a long time, plus my business here in Kansas City. And I have just been fed up with Jackson County and how they run stuff for decades. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And I retired from volunteering. And my wife said, well, what are you going to do with all your spare time now? Because I volunteered a lot. And when I say a lot, more than I actually worked. And I said, I think I'm going to go up and sit in the city hall and watch grand use meetings. And then my mayor volunteered me to serve on a Jackson County committee, which is the University of Missouri has to have an extension because it has a land grant.
Mhm.
And he appointed me to be on that. So I'm actually a Jackson County councilman. And I serve not only Jackson County, but also the district option, which would be multiple counties. And then the Republican Party said, Lonnie, why don't you run for state? And I said, there's no way. And I've had friends that were state senators and House guys, and I went, there's no way I would spend all of my time driving down to Jeff City to do something because then I couldn't run my business, which I enjoy. And they said, well, why don't you run for Jackson County? And I said, well, that's like a perfect thing for me because I have a very litigious mind. And I worked on standards and courses for those 25 years. And in Jackson County, I saw you guys were saying policies. It's like law ordinances. So Jackson County's actually ordinances, which are law, not policy. So it's a little bit more strategic, it would be like cities have ordinances also, but they're considered ordinances at the county level. And I was like, that's a good fit for me because I've really been upset about Jackson County. And I said, prayed about it. And I said, I have the skill sets that I've developed in running my business and running nonprofits for 25 years that literally fits right in line with what needs to happen to Jackson County. It needs to be torn apart. It needs people will say audit, but what they need is a forensic audit to go in and find out where did the money go? Why is it not running right? Why can't this part of the government work with this part of the government? And there's so many intrinsic problems that it's going to take not just somebody like me who's been around for a long time, but it's going to take a group of people that'll actually work together to fix it. And it is pretty broken. And so that was my commitment was, I'm 65. I got 4 years that I can give Jackson County to make sure it works better.
Well,
So
very
that
much
was kind of my
appreciate that
commitment.
response.
My wife looked at me and goes, I thought you retired. I went, well, I did for my industry, but
Yeah.
I've got a pretty high IQ, and if my mind isn't busy, uh, then I'll eat cookies all day.
Well, it's good to have an outlet, certainly. And you mentioned a few points that we often hear when talking to realtors or folks looking for homes in Jackson County, and that's the issue of property taxes. In your mind, where did things really go awry, and what solutions are on the table?
Well, the big challenge is you look at it and it's just there's like no control. I mean, it's how can you possibly have property tax that goes up higher than the inflation? I mean, it's like or how much money you get a raise. It's completely out of control. I mean, if I had my way, I mean, right now they're trying to do away with income tax in the state of Missouri, and I was like, why didn't they just do what we asked them to do, which was to get rid of property tax in the state of Missouri? It literally would have been the same thing. I mean, it might have been a little bit more expensive to do it, but it's going to be so expensive by the time they get done doing income tax. They could have got rid of property tax, and I just it's every entity makes a bigger and bigger grab for money, and they just keep going up and up and up, and then they don't repay their debts, and we don't know, we really don't know where Jackson County is from a standpoint of how much money it has. I mean, they'll say they don't have any money and they don't come up with hundreds of millions of dollars, and we're like, well, you don't have any money. So I think there's a lot to be said with let's find out how much money is there and where it's coming from and what it's committed to, and clean up what it's doing before we put a budget together for Jackson County, and then see what we really need for property tax. I think they're going backwards. They're putting property tax together and then deciding how they're going to spend it versus deciding what you need to spend and then establish property tax.
Very much appreciate that. And kind of staying on the same theme of property, certainly Jackson County, like much of the metro, has a growing need for housing, both single family, multifamily, attainable housing. In your mind, how do you address that gap? What sort of solutions can the county put forward to bring more housing online?
Well, I think part of the challenge is that the county doesn't control all of that. Every city controls their own tax levies. And so Jackson County, basically, the overall control Jackson County has is unincorporated Jackson County. All the other ones have city things involved too. I know right now I was out canvassing for one of the other candidates in Lee Summit, just handing stuff out, and they were talking about the things that have gone into Lee Summit and the overrun that all the current property owners are going to have to pay for the roads, the sewage, all those things. And I'm like going, well, how do you bring those things in and make sure they're done correctly? I think that's a city kind of thing. I mean, Jackson County can only designate to Jackson County, as far as I'm aware. Now, asking companies to come into Jackson County has a good history of running them off right now.
Well, that
So,
kind of takes me to a question that I have, Lon, is about economic development. I mean, that's, essential for a thriving community. What what is your vision, or what do you think you bring to this role that could help spur that?
well, that's a good question. I really don't know because I don't know what they have going on right now, but certainly they have to bring a better attitude. I mean, if you're if you're running massive companies to Kansas or to other states, it certainly shows that there's a lack of connectivity or a lack of good business sense. I can think of at least three massive companies that have gone to Kansas or other places. Um, I mean, and then you've got the Chief Stadium, and then you've got the Royal Stadium, and everybody's exiting Jackson County because something's not going right, and we have to figure out what's not going right before we even attempt to attract more companies to come to Kansas City. At least that would be my perception. Having ran businesses, if you're broken, you got to fix what's broken, and then otherwise you're piling something on top of what's already broken.
Sure. All right. Thank you.
Well, You talked a little bit about how some of the onus is on the city. So, if you were to be successful in your campaign, what do you view as your role as far as trying to bridge that gap? How would you work with your municipalities to make sure everyone's working in tandem and you take a more regional approach to ensure you have thriving housing and economic development?
Well, I think, as I read through your stuff here, which is pretty nice, almost all the answers have a better need for people to work together. And as you watch Jackson County run, and they'll like run an ordinance, and I'm looking, going, is there anybody here who you've invited that is really should be involved in the process? I mean, I looked at union stuff, I looked at housing stuff, I looked at the ICE stuff, and I'm like, who is here presenting on behalf of everybody? And I think they got to have a better representation of the industry that they're writing ordinances for. So if it's housing, then the housing people should be involved. If it's cities, where do we want Jackson County to go? There are several municipalities and unincorporated areas. They should all be in the room together discussing that. That's the only way you're going to get an answer that, I mean, you're not going to get everybody to be happy. I worked on a standard with the American Home Furnishing Alliance and representing the cleaning and restoration industry, and they had to have 100% agreement in everything. And I just looked at that and went, well, that's not going to last very long.
Right.
Because nobody's going to agree 100%.
Right.
But as long as it's a doable kind of thing that makes everybody solid, makes the communities grow, makes everybody money. I mean, it's got to be a win-win. Doesn't mean win-win-win, but it's got to be good for everybody. And at some point, people have to take a little less and make sure that everybody's happy.
But it's kind of almost like a real estate transaction.
Yeah,
There's got to be a win-win for everybody.
yeah. I mean, Jackson County's just not. It's just not really presented itself in a way. I mean, I have friends all across the country. They know that Jackson County is in dire needs of a change. Oh, you live in Jackson County. That's. I'm sorry. I'm like, your friends are telling you you're sorry. And so I think certainly we have to get everybody at the table, regardless of what issue it is. And you had like 4 or 5 serious issues on your stuff here, and I can think of 5 or 6 more, and they're like, all of them have to deal with property tax completely out of control, housing. Are we doing the things that we need to do in like Lee Summit? Are they making it so the normal housing people aren't affected in a negative way? Data centers. I don't even know where to start with data centers. I mean, and I'm a technical kind of guy, and I'm like, I was talking to people about data centers, and they're all over. They're all over. It's like closed loop, not closed loop, union built, not union built. I'm like, where's someplace that's going to come down to legislative, because there's so much of it going on.
Well,
No,
and it's a subject that not a lot of constituents know about, or they're dangerous enough with Google to
yeah.
find what they want to find, which supports their narrative, and that's not always necessarily the right thing.
And I think, in 5 years from now, because technology, they said, what was it, every year and a half, it quadruples. So it moves so fast that we're going to end up dealing with quantum technology versus the technology we have now. So you'll be going like this versus that. So I'm not sure where all this is going to end up. And, then we have, where's it controlled from? And I know the government's kind of concerned about those things. And by that, I mean, the United States government. I'm not sure how that trickles down to Jackson County and to the cities yet, but certainly there's an uproar about it. So it's something we have to keep our finger on,
Sure.
which of course deals with property in a massive way.
Could you speak a little bit to infrastructure and the role that you might play in infrastructure? I mean, it's obviously it's a big issue for the cities, the counties, and everybody complains about their infrastructure. If they've got a pothole in front of their street, it doesn't matter if ever the street is smooth except the one in front of their house. Can you speak to your role, if elected, and how that would impact infrastructure and what your views are on that,
I
please?
think, watching Grandview run, they have a system where it literally monitors all their streets. I don't know that Jackson County has that on the unincorporated areas. but Grandview actually monitors the streets, and it'll tell you how, if there's a pothole, how long it's been there, and it's pretty amazing. So looking at the technology they have, I think that would make a big difference. Do they have a technology that monitors the conditions of the roads and when they should be repaired? And Grandview is about as good as I could see for taking care of the roads. Now, we have had a few ponds over the years in the middle of the road, but it is a road. But as far as the roads, I would say that's a good start. I don't know about the rivers and those kinds of things, but the roads are the ones that we see the most concerns with. We have need for more lanes of traffic as we keep growing bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, you also have sewer needs. You've got water needs and things like that too. And again, everything's fine. Everybody just wants to turn the water on. They don't need to know how it gets there. They just want to make sure that it's there when they need it.
Yeah, and that has to come with the roads and stuff too. I know I was out in Blue Summit, and their unincorporated Jackson County used to be part of Independence, I think, and they literally have hills with houses on it with no sewage coverage, and when it rains, it just comes into their basements. And I'm like, this is unincorporated Jackson County. We have to get out there and fix that stuff because it's our responsibility. So whether it's sewage, whether it's drainage, whether it's how the water and I worked in the mold business, right? Water damage, mold, cleaning. I walked out there and went, there is no way. As soon as I saw the hill they were living on, I go, there's no way they have proper drainage out here.
Yeah.
That's something that they fought for a long time. And not just that, but lights and trash and all the things that have to happen. I'm not in favor of the city or the county taking over trash, because then you have no competitive system. And then you're setting up for fees and all sorts of stuff when the county runs those kinds of things.
Yep. Agree. Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, appreciate that. Well, it's going to be quick and painless. I'm going to kind of land us here with one final question. When realtors go to the ballot box here in a few, I guess I should say a couple months now, actually, I feel like we're closer than we actually are. What is your message to them? Why should they cast their vote for you?
Well, I mean, my whole reason for running is property tax and how property is being dealt with. So, and I partner many, many times with realtors in my industry, which is cleaning and restoration, carpet cleaning. And there are people that depend on me to come out. Huge facilities depend on me to come out and facilitate taking care of their facility. And I'm like, I don't know that I'm any better than anybody else, but I am dedicated to doing exactly what I say I can do, which is put my time in and make sure that we've got all the data to make sure the right choices are made, and to bring the right people to the table to make the choices so you're informed. And I think that's a big part that we're missing, is not having everybody at the table to make a good choice.
Well, very much appreciate that response. It's very commendable that you have such a commitment to coalition building and working with external parties. Before we wrap up, do you have any questions for us?
Not really. I know a lot of realtors. Actually, I have a lot of friends that are realtors. I'm like, what drives your organization to want to influence the sphere of governance?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, as a local association, we are primarily focused on municipal and county matters. And we have an innate understanding of the reality that most of what drives our business is done in local government, between zoning, property taxes, which we've talked about heavily today. We know how much that impacts both our realtors and their clients. So we certainly try to stay apprised of everything happening locally and make sure that the right folks are getting into the right positions to make sure we have a thriving housing market.
Sure. Well, that's good. I think that's all I had that I wanted to ask, because I already know some stuff about realtors.
Well, good.
Is there anything else that you need to ask me, or anything I need to do for you? I did enjoy filling out your form. I like forms because they make you think. So
there you go. Well,
I thought about it for a while.
It was good for you.
Yeah. Well, I like forms and processes and documents. Of course, I worked in that industry for a long time. So anytime you say something, and I don't know if you're dealing with cities, it is, I think it's still ordinances. I know you're putting policies in there, and policies are usually below ordinances from a legal standpoint. If you might want to put that in there,
Sure. I appreciate that. But I think that's all we have for you. If you have any more questions, we just very much appreciate your time this morning. Wish you the absolute best out there, knocking doors and staying on the campaign trail. And we'll certainly be in touch soon.
I appreciate it, guys. You have a
Great.
good morning.
Thank you
Thank you.
very
You as
much.
well. Take care.
Thanks.